Hi, everyone, and welcome to Cambridge English with Jen. I'm Jen, and I'm a native English teacher from the UK, and I specialize in teaching students to pass the Cambridge exams. I decided to take a C1 use of English test and film my thought process for you. Even as a teacher, some of those questions are really, really tricky. I remember when I got my first teaching job around 6 or so years ago, working in an academy. When I was in front of the students and I was faced with different questions from the use of English test, even at B2 level, I was struggling to understand the answers for some of them. Now, as time has passed and I've done so many different exercises and I fully understand the grammar and what is expected of me from these questions, it's gotten a little bit easier, but some of them I still struggle with. So let me show you exactly how I approach each part of the use of English test and what I'm thinking while I'm doing it. Okay, so let's take a look at part one. Part one is your multiple choice. So for each gap, you have four options, A, B, C, or D. In the exam, I would suggest that you read through all of it first to get an idea of what it's talking about before you go ahead and try to guess the answers. But let's take a look. Number one, researchers found that those who work in jobs with better promotion are less likely to develop serious illnesses. Better promotion, forecasts, advances, predictions, prospects. So I know that forecasts is more to do with trends in the future, weather. Advances, sorry, sounds a little bit strange here. Promotion advances. Predictions, again, just doesn't sound right. Promotion prospects. Well, that would be a collocation. That sounds pretty good to me. I always tell my students that part one, in my opinion, is one of the hardest to study for because there's so much language that you need to know in order to be able to get every single one right. But I do find the more that you read in English and the more that you do the other use of English tasks, you will be learning the words that you need for part one. It is easier, grammatically easier to study for part two, part three, and part four than it is for this part one. Okay, what have we got in number two? Those working in departments with double the average promotion scale rate degree ratio had 20% better chance. I guess we're talking about how often something happens, so it would be the rate of promotion here. So sometimes it's about knowing what words go together. Sometimes it's about knowing the prepositions that go after certain verbs, phrasal verbs, etc., etc. So, for example, if we come down here and look at number three, the researchers into account factors such as. So I know from, obviously from being native English, but if I were you, I would know from practicing different readings and different use of English exercises that the verb that goes with into account, especially when it comes to research, will be take. Take into account. This time it's in the past, so it's took into account. And here, the researchers took these factors into account. And then we've got some kind of linking word that begins the next sentence. And our options are anyway, moreover, consequently, or admittedly. So we're looking at the sentence before the gap tells us that the researchers did something. The information after the gap is not adding any extra information, so it can't be moreover. Anyway would be used more for like changing topic. Anyway, I would say that the meaning here would be consequently. So the researchers took these factors into account, and as a result, or consequently, they could be confident. And if we go down to number 5, we look for something that goes with upbringing. because of the topic. I guess what we're talking about here is privilege. So privileged upbringing, because preferred upbringing, entitled upbringing, honored upbringing, they don't sound very good to me. Okay, let's do one more here for number 6. The results seem to earlier studies showing that people who win prestigious awards have a tendency to outlive those who are less fortunate. The results seem to hesitation. I'm thinking more here, the results seem to suggest, but actually the results are kind of like contradicting earlier studies. So they are hesitation. No, it makes no sense here. The result seems to reservation. No. The result seems to opposition. This would make sense if the word here was oppose, but the result seemed to opposition is grammatically incorrect. So that only leaves me with question. The result seems to question earlier studies. So part 1 of use of English is a lot about knowing collocations. It's a lot about knowing what verbs go with what prepositions. And it's understanding meaning more so than just guessing what words sound like. Can you understand what this text is actually talking about to be able to put the right words in the right place? Okay, let's move on to part 2. Part 2 is your open close, where you have no options to choose from. You've got no help here. You're really out there on your own, thinking about what could go in these gaps. If you spend some time studying or learning with a teacher, that teacher, me, for example, if I was teaching you, I would tell you which kind of grammar rules to practice, what they actually look for in here. So they look for things such as phrasal verbs, determiners, quantifiers, linking words, your pronouns, your relative pronouns, all of these kind of things come up in here. But let's take a look. Every year, thousands of young people in various countries do short periods of work experience in other countries the time they leave school and start university. Okay, I'm already feeling a little bit stuck. What is the meaning here? Are we talking about a sequence of events by the time they leave school and university? Or are we talking about the time in between? Do short periods of work experience in other countries? I'm going to put a between here. My other options could be after the time they leave school and start university, but no, I think we're talking about 10. A personal point of view. Okay. From a personal point of view. Number 11, there are many organizations that run work experience programs. Such company is Global Volunteers. Could we do a such company? As such, wouldn't really fit here. Okay, Global Volunteers is one example. So one such company is Global Volunteers. And then here I can see a comma, some extra information, which I'm guessing here is a relative clause. We're talking about the spokesperson of the company. So we're looking at belonging, whose spokesperson, Mary Cooper, admits or comments. Than being an extended holiday. Okay, I can see here, rather than being an extended holiday, our placements involve learning to. Okay, what verb here would go with responsibility? Take responsibility for themselves. Young people should push themselves out of their comfort zone and do something productive. Doing a placement will add value to a CV, helping young people to out from the crowd in the job market. Any phrases that I might know with out from the crowd? Yes, I do know that to look different in a good way is stand out from the crowd. So part 2, as you can see, we've tested relative pronouns, we've tested verbs that go with certain words, we've got an expression to stand out from, and we've got linking words. Now let's tackle part 3. Part 3, depending on the student, but most people tend to find this part easier. So you have a set of words down the side, and you have to change each word. So you might have to add a suffix or a prefix. You might have to change its form. So you could be changing noun to adjective, adjective to verb, adverbs. There's a combination of different things you could be doing here. The more that you practice, the easier it becomes to do this part. So I can look down this list here and look, for example, sure. More than likely, before I've even read the text, I can see it's probably going to be to ensure. Accept generally becomes acceptable. I could be wrong. I will check when I read. Benefit, beneficial. Pursue is a very, very popular one in this one, and it's often changed to pursuit. Progress, distinct, adapt. Okay, adapt, adaptable. What about 17? Distinct. And also one of the most distinctive. So I'm putting an adjective here. Similarly, South American Inca chiefs had their hair short. In contrast, the hair of their citizens got something longer, progressively longer. We're looking for an adverb here. Women have always reflected fashion through their hairstyles, sometimes quite dramatically. Women would pluck hair from the front of their heads in pursuit of beauty. So we can go ahead and put that there. 3 centuries later, the fashion was for huge hairstyles that made it necessary. And this one is put there sometimes for the spelling. I often forget how to spell it myself, but I remember learning a rhyme when I was in school of never eat cake, eat sour sandwiches, and remain young. So that always helps me to remember the spelling. Never eat cake, eat sour sandwiches, and remain young. I don't know if it was sour sandwiches or salad sandwiches. Anyway, so sometimes they put words in there to test your spelling. For example, necessary, pursuit, because it's quite a spelling change. The maintenance needed to ensure, so I've got that one correct. Today, in our more liberal world, very little is socially acceptable with regard to hairstyle. Okay, so I've got that wrong here. Our world is more liberal these days, so there's not much that isn't acceptable is the meaning. So very little is socially unacceptable. So I would have to make 2 changes to this one. A prefix and a suffix. Has been enormously beneficial. Perfect. So yeah, that part 3 usually is quite a breeze, especially once you've practiced. And I think for a native, this part isn't too difficult. But moving on to part 4. Part 4 can completely depend on the question. Sometimes I can get it straight away. Sometimes it takes me quite a while. So I'm not going to do this whole exercise with you. I'm just going to pick out the ones that I think are worth mentioning. So have a look at 25. Use of English part 4. What do I need to do here? I need to complete the second sentence so it looks the same as the first, or the meaning stays the same as the first, using the word given, which in number 25 here you can see is I. I cannot change that word, and I must use between 3 and 6 words, including that word I, in this gap here. What we can do to help us is to cross out anything that repeats. So the constant public attention on famous people must have an effect on them. Constantly must have an effect on famous people. Okay, so I don't need to repeat famous people. I don't need to really look at must have an effect on them. And constantly. So basically what I'm left with is public attention. That's what I need to get into this gap, somehow using the word I. Any ideas? Any expressions come to mind when you think of celebrities, public attention, eye? One comes up for me straight away. In the public eye. In the public eye. Okay, so constantly being in the public eye must have an effect on famous people. Great. That's easy enough. Number 28. The hotel wasn't just far from the sea, it was expensive too. And we've got only. Immediately, I know that when someone is complaining about something, you might say, not only was this, it was also this. So again, let's repeat. I can hear my dog snoring. Let's cross out what repeats. We've got from the sea. We don't need to take any notice of it was too expensive because that is already here. It was too expensive. Not only was the hotel far away, okay, what can I put here? Not only was the hotel a long way from the sea, or not only was the hotel some way from the sea, it was expensive too. So we use not only often when we're complaining about things, not only this, but also this. Okay, 29, hi. Jenny felt she had stayed too long at the party. Hi. I know from doing a lot of practice, bear with me one moment. I know from doing a lot of practice of this exercise that this is one that comes up often. When you want to say that it's about time, it's the moment to do something, we use an expression called it's high time. And that just means like it's the moment. It's now. It's high time. Jenny felt she had stayed too long. Okay, so it's not going to be it's going to be in the past. Jenny felt it was high time. You can put that if you wish. It was high time. She did something, so it was high time she left the party. It was high time she left the party. And the same here, if we want to cross out what's repeating, we can cross out the party, we can cross out Jenny felt, and then we're left with Jenny felt it was high time that she left the party. It was the moment, it was about time that she left the party. Okay, just got some notes here, page 38. Let's go to one more exam and have a look at two pretty common questions here. 27. As soon as the tennis players went onto the court, it started raining. All right, we don't need to repeat onto the court because that's mentioned. We don't need to bother with it started raining, but we do need to look at as soon as the tennis players went. That's what we're working with here. As soon as, we're looking here, no sooner had, which is your magic word here. No sooner what? No sooner had the tennis players gone onto the court, went onto the court, gone. So no sooner is a C1 level way of saying as soon as this happened. And I've made no sooner had the tennis players gone onto the court. This is the way of saying, yeah, as soon as this happened, no sooner had something taken place. So no sooner had plus the past participle. And one more that I want to have a look at with you is number 28, because 28 is our infamous phrasal verb. What have we got? We'll have to postpone the meeting until next week. Can you think of any phrasal verbs that mean postpone? Anything coming to mind? The manager said, okay, so we don't need to repeat the manager said. We don't need to repeat until next week because here we've got until the following week. We don't need to look at as a lot of people were on leave because we've got that here. We basically, we need the phrasal verb that replaces postpone. I can think of two. Put off, which means to postpone, and call off, which also means to postpone. I personally would use this one more for cancel. The football match has been called off due to bad weather. The football match has been put off due to bad weather. You can use either. I checked the answers for this book and both of them are acceptable. The manager said that the meeting had to be put off or called off until the following week. Yeah, both of them sound perfect actually. Had to be put off or had to be called off until the following week. So there you go. You've got a phrasal verb. Very common to have one phrasal verb come up in this part of the use of English. So there you have it. Even as a teacher, I had to really think my way through each of these questions. Some parts were easier than others, but some parts are really, really tricky. The good news is the more you practice, the more you understand the actual grammar that's expected of you in these parts, the easier it gets. So if you want to practice questions just like these with my strategies and my explanations, I've created a free C1 mock exam. So that's a full use of English and reading test. You'll also get the answers sent straight to your inbox with a really handy sheet telling you how to correct yourself. I'll send you a bonus listening test for C1 level, and you'll also have the chance to upgrade to get your speaking test looked at by me and your writing too. So you'll find the link for that down in the description. It's absolutely free and I encourage you to give it a go. Test yourself, see how well you can do, and also see in which places you might need to focus a little bit more. Where are your strong areas and where are your weaker areas? And let me know in the comments, which part of the use of English do you find the most difficult? That's all till next time. Thank you.